Hi and welcome to this week's GMBN Tech Show. Coming up on the show this week, we have a look at some waterproof dungarees. They could be a bit more like fishing overalls, but kind of cool nonetheless. There's 3 Alchemy bikes, Arctos, I think the model is. There's that new Specialized Stumpy alloy, which is very, very cool and has always got a sandwich box on there. And some great regulars for a new lot. Okay, so straight into the show, and I guess this is kind of following on from last week's show, where we were talking about bikes getting a bit pricey. Now, it does seem that the general consensus is, yes, mountain bikes are getting more expensive. Now, I'm not going to go down that route, but where we're going to go this week is how to get more for your money. Now, I think we might have said that a lot of mountain bikers have bikes between 3,000 and 5,000. I don't know if we said US dollars or euros. Either way, it seems like it was shot down quite a lot in the comments. A lot of people commenting more like $500 to $1,000. So in that case then, let's not get too bogged down with that, but let's look at where you can actually save money in the first place. Let's face it, you know, we all like to have nice bikes, and that could be a $500 bike to you, it could be a $1,500 bike. But there's sensible ways of saving cash, and there's a number of them available to you. And the first one, of course, is looking after your gear. And what better way to look after your gear than with the help of some of the videos we make on GMBN, EMBN, GMBN Tech on looking after your bike. We give loads of advice on looking after your gear and getting longevity from that. The 3-tyre concept of having 3 tyres to work your way through the year instead of having 4 tyres. Replacing your chain and cassette before they're worn out, or more importantly, replacing the chain before it's worn out and getting more use so you can get 2 chains, perhaps 3 chains worth of use out of a single cassette, is all there to help you save a bit of cash and get the most bang for your buck. And then, of course, there's actually buying the gear in the first place, and you have to be a bit more sensible how you do this. Now, of course, the traditional model was to buy a bike from, or derailleur or whatever you want to buy from a bike shop, and that bike shop would get their gear from a distributor, and the distributor would get the stuff from the supplier, etc, etc. There's another way now. You can go straight to the actual bike brand. Brands like Canyon, brands like YT, even brands like Commencal, and there's many more out there, and you can buy direct from them. Now, the advantages of that are there are huge savings to be had for you, the consumer. It's a great thing if you know what you want and you're happy to have a bike delivered to you in a cardboard box. You can save a load of cash. It's a great way of doing things. Now, I can feel a lot of people out there favouring their local bike shops, saying, oh, that's the way it's killing bike shops. Well, the fact is, the economy is changing and the way that we buy things is changing. We've seen this with Amazon, we've seen this with various different things around the world. It's more a case of re-identifying how they work. Now, all the better bike shops that I've been made aware of, they're all doing a better trade in looking after people's bikes and giving better service and aftermarket service. That really, the labour charges and the advice and the expertise they can give far exceeds, in my opinion, just the outright price of buying a bike in the first place. Now, I might be wrong in saying that, but I'm sure that better bike shops are aware of this already, and they're already doing a better deal for the consumer on stuff. But when it comes to actually buying stuff, sometimes you need to do what's best for you, cut those corners and buy direct. Now, of course, you can also look at second-hand, and you can look at end-of-year bargains. Now, end-of-year bargains, or end-of-season bargains, should I say, because there's not really a financial year as such for many bike brands now, the way they work. You can get end-of-season bikes when they're running out. You might be subject to having obscure colours that you might not have picked, or limitations in the sizes on offer. But hey, it's definitely worth holding out for some of those sales because you can get great price savings. And then probably a better one that goes under the radar a bit more is buying ex-demo bikes. Now, every bike manufacturer out there will have fleets of demo bikes in different countries of sale, and they're the bikes that are sent to bike shops if a customer wants to try one in a particular size to confirm before buying, or perhaps where they have someone running a demo fleet and they take them around the country. You can go and try before you buy. Now, those bikes are all looked after meticulously because they need the consumer to have the best opportunity riding them, regardless of the cosmetics of the bike, in order to choose if they want to buy one. And at the end of every year, they sell them off really cheap. You can get great bargains. So if you've ridden a Trek, for example, get in touch with Trek and say, I'm interested in the next demo bike, and see if you can get your details taken down by them. Again, there's loads of ways of doing this. Second-hand market as well. There's never been such a good time to buy stuff because more people are buying more new stuff, and therefore their older stuff is going to go to the second-hand market. It could be Facebook Marketplace, it could be any number of online ways of buying stuff, eBay, online marketplaces, Craigslist, the list goes on. Now, just be careful. The general consensus is if it's too cheap, if it's too good to be good, too good to be true sort of thing. It probably is. It could be a nicked bike, so it's up to you to do your fact checking there. But again, there's loads of ways of saving money and being sensible. Do you need the latest 12-speed stuff? Is there anything wrong with 11-speed or even 10-speed? You can save a fortune by not having the latest gear. It's not essential to have 29-inch wheels. It's not essential to have a mullet setup. You don't need any of these things. All you need is a well-maintained and a well-set-up bike to go and enjoy it. Hopefully this might have given you some ideas on saving some cash, and if not, we're going to make some videos dedicated to help you save cash further. Let us know what you think in the comments underneath. Okay, so news time then. Now the first thing in news this week is there's a new Specialized course series. They like putting out new bikes, don't they? The new Stump Jumper Evo alloy. This is it on screen. I've got to say, I reckon this could be nicer than the carbon one. I mean, look at it. Look how low slung this thing looks. I mean, to be fair, the geometry is going to be the same, but just look at it. It looks great. I love an alloy bike. So what do you need to know about it? So it's 29-inch. You can run it MX style or mullet setup, whatever you want to call that. Essentially running a 29-inch wheel on the front and 27.5 on the rear. It's got 150mm travel. It's got the swap box system in there, which we've seen loads on different brands before in the carbon bikes. We've not really seen it much outside of Trek and Specialized in alloy frames. Why not? It's a great idea, being able to store your sandwiches, your baguettes, your cigarettes, whatever you want to store in your down tube, it can go in there. It's all good stuff. Now, head angle is adjustable between 63 and 65.5, so plenty of adjustability on there. It's got between 438 and 453mm chainstay lengths across the sizes from S1 to S6. But it's all proportional geometry, which is great. It means that however tall or short you are, you're going to get the best handling bike, and it's going to handle essentially the way the designers wanted it to handle. Now they say weighs 14.9 kilos, which is about 34 pounds. Presumably that's going to be of the size medium. That's what most manufacturers tend to do with the weights. And pricing is between $3,800 US and $5,600. And the frame only is $1,900. I've got to say, Specialized narc me because they just keep making nice bikes. I really want to dislike them, but you can't because they're a cool brand that make great bikes. What do you think? You like Specialized bikes? Let us know down there. Right, hardtail time next, the Orange Crush. Have a look at this bad boy on screen. I do like a hardtail. You know, I haven't had a hardtail for quite a long time, but since I made that video with Blake that went out, if you haven't seen it, by the way, please watch that. The link is down there, floating around somewhere. He made his own bike in the garage with no jig. Madman, but it turned out pretty good. There's something about a hardtail is quite cool. Kind of fancy one again. Anyway, so this one, a few different things. They've got a one-piece chainstay yoke, which they say is brand new. And interestingly, they say to improve lateral rigidity for pedaling performance. Because you need that on a hardtail, don't you? But hey, tapered head tube, 73mm bottom bracket shell for extra strength. Sounds like it's going to be a really stiff bike, so you want to get your tyre pressure dialed on this thing. Two models, 27.5 and the 29. 75.5 degree seat angle on there, so great climbing friendly. 63.5 head angle, that is wild on a hardtail. 480mm reach on a size large, so there's a good range of size in there, bang on point. We know that Orange are really good like that with their sizing. And the only real difference between the 29 and the 27.5 is the head angle is a little bit steeper on the 29, so 64.5 degrees versus 63.5. And it's a 150mm fork on the 27.5 and a 140 on the 29. Cool looking bike. I really quite like Orange these days, making good bikes again. Next up in news, Alchemy are back with another model of the Arctos. Now the Arctos bike, to me, I think it reminded me, probably the closest brand in terms of styling and coolness, I reckon, to Yeti. Yeah, someone's going to shoot me down, I know that, but I'm a Yeti fan, I love the bikes. And the Cine suspension system designed by Dave Earl on this just also kind of reminded me of Yeti a bit. Something about them that's just really nice, and I'm also pleased to say the geometry seems to have stepped up a little bit as well. So the 2022 bike now comes with a flip chip on there. Again, it's got a Cine suspension platform on there. You can run them mullet style, 29, 27.5, whatever you fancy on the back end there. And interestingly, when you pick the bikes on the website, when you look at them, it just offers you the choice of what size rear wheel you want to run, because they all come with 29s, which is cool. 3 different travel options. So there's 130 front with 120 rear. That's what I'd have, 100%. 150, 135, and 170, 150. Interestingly, all got more travel on the front, all got less on the rear. I kind of like that. I've always preferred to have a bit more up on the front there. Reach between the sizes, they've got 3 sizes, medium, large and extra large, and they range from 460 to 508, so bang on point there. Really cool. Head angle 64.75 to 65, so not the slackest, but I have no issue with that. I think some people get carried away with needing a super slack head angle. You don't. Like, that's plenty on there. Seat angle 75.75 to 76. What do you reckon? Am I alone in thinking that Alchemy bikes are really quite cool? Kind of understated. They've got that smooth, elegant styling. They lend themselves for custom paint jobs as well. They've got that look to them. I think they're wicked looking bikes, and I'd like to see more of them, to be honest, but they're kind of quite niche, I guess. Right, next up in news, Muc-Off have got a rainproofing spray called Rain Shield. It's a reproofer spray, essentially. So this, make no mistake, it's not going to make a jumper or anything else that's non-waterproof or a porous fabric waterproof. It's just going to reproof things. Perhaps you've got waterproof jackets, got DWR coating. It's going to refresh that, essentially. It's just something that mountain bikers need to use in the winter, and they can get Muc-Off one. This is it on screen. Great stuff. Okay, next up, I have something new from Knipex, or Knipex. Check this out. The tiniest little sliding pliers ever. How cool are they? Do you need them? Possibly not. Do you want them? Yeah, I know you do, because they are the coolest little thing that you can put in your trail toolkit. Super stiff in use. They'll go up to a 21mm nut, so really quite usable. Arguably, they could replace all of your small spanners in your workshop. Mega cool. What do they retail for? 40 quid or thereabouts. Could be a great stocking filler. Just going to park that one right there. Okay, last thing in news is a set of waterproof dungarees for riding your mountain bike in or doing any other outdoor pursuit. Now, I know all the video creators here have all been looking at these because they have to sit around in dank puddles in the winter when they're filming us. But it's made me realise that actually these could be a really good thing for a lot of off-road mountain bikers. Yep, they're crazy expensive. They're like 450 quid, I think they are. But provided you look after them, there's no reason why they wouldn't last quite a long time. And they've got a lot of benefits. So you can wear these, as I am, as overalls over existing clothing. There's plenty of room for your knee pads in there. They've got elasticated ankles, 15,000mm waterproofness on them, extremely breathable. You've got full access to either vents or to your trousers you're wearing underneath, which is great. You've got zip waterproof pockets. You've got a zip pocket on the top here, adjustable braces on them, which also means they're dead easy just to slide straight on over whatever you're wearing. They could be one of the best things for mountain bikers to ride in the foulest of conditions. Or you might look at them and just think, no, mate, you look like a fisherman. Nothing to do with me. But you can't deny they're beautifully made. Just going to read out a few points on them. So yeah, like I said, 15,000mm waterproofness, so about as waterproof as it gets. Ultra breathable 3-layer fabric, fully taped, Cordura reinforced, room for your knee pads, zipper fly as well. You've got a cinch on the back so you can pull the whole thing in so it's close to your body so there's no flapping around. But a cut other than that is quite generous. I think they're pretty cool. I'm sure a lot of you are going to shoot me down, but I reckon they're really cool. Okay, so comments then. Now, what I want to refer to in comments is what Annika Beerton did for GMBN Tech out at Sea Otter. It was so cool to have Annika reporting for us at the moment. I think she did a great video, and the comments actually completely reflected that. So I'm just going to read out a few of these. Nerds on Dirt MTB says, Annika should be a full-time addition to GMBN. Oh man, I'd love that, but not sure what Annika's plans are. I think she'd be very welcome here, and she's clearly bonkers about bikes. She's an amazing rider and racer, of course, ex-pro. Jacob Holmes says, hey GMBN, enroll Annika immediately. She does a great job here, and given her experience of racing bikes, she'd be perfect in tips, tricks and technique videos. Dude, I completely agree with you. She's awesome. Bruce Sear says, Calvin always steals the show. It's like he was made to be on the internet. Yeah, do you know what? I think the internet was designed for Calvin, actually. Yeah, that's what he does. Calvin Jones, Park Tool Company. And Annika Beerton actually commented saying, thank you GMBN for having me. Definitely some big shoes to fill with Doddy. Well, actually, size 11, I've got the bigger shoes. Not being able to make it to Sea Otter this year. Glad to see mountain biking well alive at the Otter. Wish I could have been there with you, Annika reporting. Hey, maybe the next time. We'll see what happens, but hopefully you can do some more videos for us. I'm sure GMBN Tech viewers would love to see you doing some stuff on the channel. Hey, see what happens, eh? Okay, now it's time for some top mods. Now this is a section of the show dedicated to what you do to your bikes. That could be changing the handlebar grips, it could be repainting the whole thing, it could be buying your first frame set and building it up. Whatever it is you've done to your bike to make it better or to enjoy it, send it in. Tell us what you've done. Link to the uploader is right there. Get involved in the comments underneath as well and tell us all about yourselves. And don't forget, when you fill in details in the uploader, send in a load of cool pictures and tell us what you've done to your bike, your name, where you're from, all that stuff. First one on screen right now is from Jason in Bicester, or if you're in America, it's at Bicester. Here is my 2021 Nukeproof Scout 275 build. Michelin Wild Enduros, Hunt Enduro wide wheels, SRAM GX access. Dude, you are laying down some money on this. Absolute black oval chainring. How are you getting on with that? In fact, quick mini poll out there. Oval chainrings, yay or nay? I didn't find they gave me any benefit to my riding, but I know some other riding pals that swear by them. Just like to know, actually, from my own curiosity, let us know in the comments down there. And if our AD guys can do it, there will be a poll, but I can't guarantee that. So we'll see what happens down there. Shimano SLX 4 pots front and rear with 203mm RT86 discs, so 203mm front and rear, flipping heck. RockShox Zeb Ultimates at 160mm. Dude, on a hardtail, what a beast. Wow. It's looking great. And I like the fact you've just got a Brand X dropper post on there as well. No frills, doesn't matter, goes up and down. Looking at your bike, you clearly run it down most of the time, so why spend more? Mate, it looks awesome. What a cool looking bike. Parts were scarce due to COVID, so it's a bit of a waiting game for a lot of things. For example, I originally wanted a different fork, but I couldn't source one, so found a Zeb Ultimate in stock, went for that instead. Not a bad upgrade on what I went for. Dude, it looks awesome. Cool pictures as well. Hell of a bike that is. Looks like you should be aspiring to do something like the Mega Avalanche on a bike like that. Although I would say your Garmin mount, the one just to the left of your stem there, you might want to reposition that because that looks in a prime place to accidentally knee the Garmin and send it far enough down the trail. Have a little tweak around just to try and optimize that. You don't want to lose that expensive piece of kit. But awesome stuff, Jason. Nice to see. Okay, next up is from Martin in Germany with a Trek Remedy 9.8 2016 model. Back in 2019, when my son grew serious about mountain bike, we bought a second-hand Trek Remedy 9.8, pretty much stock except for Better Fork and GX Eagle. I gradually replaced and upgraded parts such as Mavic D-Max rims to replace a Bontrager line that you smashed in no time, and a Fox DPX2 replaced the Trek reactive shock using offset bushings. Very nice. Reverb Stealth dropper came in place of the original Bontrager post, and earlier this year, a friend of his damaged the frame. He decided to go for a carbon repair with full respray and restyle. Carbon repairs. Now, there's a box right behind the camera, actually, that's got carbon repair written on it. And you've just reminded me, the guys on GCN had a carbon frame repaired. And we've had a lot of people actually asking about mountain bike carbon frames getting damaged and rock strikes and that. So we're going to try and get hold of a damaged frame and get one repaired to see exactly what the process is and see how it works. We're going to make that video this winter at some point. So hopefully we'll be able to give some advice out there for people that have asked that. But cool to know that you've done that. My son chose manga as a theme for decals. So nice. Made by Speedy Decal in Italy. Dude, it really does look like a different bike. Yeah. Those Trek decals with the manga on the inside, that's super cool. Quite subtle as well, you wouldn't really know unless you look up close. Hard to believe that's the same bike, isn't it? See what you can do by saving money by getting an older bike like that and doing it up. It's phenomenal. And you've got like a brand new bike. So the old one on screen now in yellow and the new one. It looks amazing. What a great job. Everyone should be trying to do this to get the best bang for your buck. Awesome stuff. Keep those top mods coming in. Okay, we've also got time for a bit of rewind action, so let's skip back to where all the cool stuff came from and look at what stuff used to look like. If you've got anything old, questionable, semi-old, send it in. There's a link there, another one right down there for you. Throwing at you on screen is a Balfour. Now, I don't know the model, BB7, not really sure. I'm not an expert in Balfour, but what I can tell you about Balfour is that they were pretty much like the original high pivot, idler wheel style setup bike. Completely floating back end on there. You can also see it's got a brake torsion arm there, so the rear brake basically is completely isolated, so anti-rise are the effects of braking on your rear suspension, and that means you can get brake jack or brake squat. Some racers would like brake squat, so let's just say grabbing a handful of rear brake, it could hunker the bike into the terrain. And even though it can firm the suspension up, you can actually get a more stable ride. So riders and racers like Fabian Burrell actually used to like having brake squat on their bikes, but brake jack is what you don't want, where the suspension extends when you brake. Definitely don't want that. So you either want squat or you want it neutral, and that's exactly what that braking torsion arm does on there. Now, a lot of mountain bikes used to have these on because, let's face it, they hadn't quite figured out the way they wanted bikes to ride, or to get the bike they wanted to ride, they couldn't achieve the anti-rise effects they needed, so it's a good workaround. But it's very different now because designers know a lot more about suspension and how to configure the rear ends on bikes to get around this. But those Balfours, even though they were quite small, the suspension on those was phenomenal. They used to work really, really well. Up front is a Marzocchi Shiver fork, so that's an inverted fork, 7-inch travel on there. They were quite bendy, but really forgiving. You could ride those in, plough into rock gardens with those. And compared to, say, I don't know, a Fox 40, you'd get a load of feedback through the bars. On the Shivers, the wheel could almost thread, through the rocks a bit. So it could be disconcerting if you were coming off a fork that was stiffer, but actually they did feel really good. But it just so happens, they were quite heavy. It was an open oil bath fork like the original Z1 bombers, so basically full of oil. So they're constantly being lubricated. So you never needed to do that, looking after the things. I loved the Shiver. I thought it was an awesome fork, but just could have done with being a bit stiffer. But, oh man, really cool to see the bike. So also notice on the front you've got a Kenda tyre, but on the rear you've got an Intense tyre. So ITS, Intense Tyre Systems, they used to make a 4-ply tyre. That thing, you could ride into a curb at about 50 miles an hour and you wouldn't get pinch flat. You'd probably break the curb. They were ridiculous. They were the strongest things ever. And I remember having a 3-inch, 24-inch version of one of those tyres on my Specialized Big Hit. So I had a 26-inch wheel on the front and 24 on the rear. And I had the Sun, did I have the double wide? So it might have been an MTX rim on the rear. With that 4-ply tyre, we couldn't get it off. That tyre is still on that rim somewhere. I don't know where it is. Someone out there might have it. But I remember it took like 3 of us trying to get rid of the tyre. We couldn't, so we basically just put it to one side and got a new rear wheel on there. I was working, testing bike stuff at the time, so I didn't have time to mess around with it, but pretty crazy. The iconic old Tioga saddle on there, Eastern seat post. What looks like, I don't know, it could be a race face stem. Can't see a close-up on that. Hayes HFX mag brakes and what looks like Eastern Cully pedals on there as well. Might be wrong actually, can't see those close up. I'll take that back. North Shore Billet perhaps is a stem in fact on there. But very cool, floating back end, high pivot, idler wheel going over it. So high pivot enables the rear wheel axle to move away around the bump. The downside of that is you get a lot of chain growth because of the fact the axle's moving away, and to calm the chain growth down, you run the chain over the pivot. Makes it handle like a bike with a low pivot. So kind of a cool system, and you're seeing that repeat now, except on slightly more refined bikes. But hey, Balfour bikes, they were cool. And another one, a Foes DHS Mono from Gerardo Antonio in Mexico. I had one of these for a short time, not with the Monster on it, I had the Foes fork on it. Absolutely loved that bike. Oh my God, it was such a nice bike. It rode so nicely. The big Kernet shock on the rear. Oh man, but you got the Monster T on there. Man, so cool to see. Yellow race face cranks. Again, another crazy big saddle. That looks like the Physique version, I think, on there. Can't be too sure. Michelin tyres on there, so probably DH 16s or 24s, or maybe the Comp 24s, or even the Trans Alp. I don't know. Oh man, awesome to see. Great old downhill bikes. In fact, old downhill bikes, or even sort of mid-school downhill bikes. If anyone out there has got any sort of cool downhill bikes like Intense M1SLs, anything like that, let's see them. Let's have a little bit of a nod back to when downhill was kind of really in its heyday, really starting getting trucking. Bikes like that Foes were right up there. Come on, let's see them. Get involved. Oh, well, there we go. That's enough for this week's show. It's good to be back. Massive thank you to Neil for filling in for me last week when I wasn't feeling too good. And a massive thank you to Annika Beerton for doing that awesome video for us at Sea Otter. Gutted I couldn't be there myself, but hey, US visa problems and COVID and all the other rubbish that's got in the way. But we'll be there next year. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again soon. Ta-ra.